flickering. See that?
Any of those, I think.
You know what I mean? Open up mine.
I'm just getting in.
Hi guys, we're gonna give it just a minute for everybody to get on. I'm letting people in.
You need to.
I need to not share.
Hey Kim.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good.
All right, I think
Initially,
everybody.
Hang on. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
All right, so Angie and John, Brennan, if you're there, and Mo, can you guys start your video?
Yeah. It looks like I'm connected, but for some reason my video is not showing. Let me, oh, here we go. There we go.
All right. Look at the hair. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I've been catching a lot of flack for the afro I've got going on the top of my head there. So
It's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Okay. So I am gonna mute everyone except for you guys. So give me a second. We're still letting some other people in. There's unmute. Angie, unmute. I don't see if Brennan is on yet. Where is John? Get it just another minute, guys. John, I think Brennan said he's coming right at time, so. Oh, got a few more coming in. Let's see, Brennan. It's letting me pop up right here, so. All right. So while we wait for just one more minute, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, there's Mo. Okay. Let's see if there's anybody else popping up to come in. Not right now. 40 right now. I know we had 70 something. Register. Okay. All right, guys. See. Can you guys see that?
yes.
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 Perfect. Oop. All right. Let me minimize one thing. All right, let me just double check real quick, make sure there's nobody else popping on, and then, oh, a few more. All right. I think we are good. So for everybody on the call, I'm Bobby Jo Justice with First International Title. We are doing a chain of different trainings for you guys, just kind of offering you more content to make sure that you get your business where you want to be, especially during this time. We're trying to help you grow your business, and we just wanted to be your partner. We want to earn that loyalty from you, help you to grow during this time of need. And a lot of these things we actually do always. We're just kind of amping it up a little bit with all these trainings. So it's something that we can do one-on-one or for your individual brokerages in the hope that we can earn your business and your referrals. So with that, I don't see anybody else coming on. to Brennan. Make sure he's unmuted. Nope. Brenda. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go right into the presentation, and our presentation today is on our wholesale panel discussion part 2, because our first panel, we had a lot of questions after, a lot of people wanted to hear more. And so we went ahead and invited, John Crone on this call. So thank you very much. And I'm going to let John go ahead and introduce himself and get started with the probate.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so you mentioned that you've done a wholesale panel before, and I've noticed that probate and wholesale intersect quite a bit. And if the goal is to drive more business and create more transactions, which would benefit everyone that's on this call, then I think it's important for people to know what probate is, because this is a big area of opportunity, you know, going forward for the next foreseeable future. So we can, if we want to jump in there.
Sorry, I had to admit somebody in.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no worries. I've learned a lot about how Zoom works and adjusting on the fly.
Yes. All right, so there.
Yeah, so
John, go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, very briefly. This is just some of my background. I've been practicing for almost 8 years now. Went out on my own in March of 2017. These are my practice areas. I primarily do probate related work. I'd say that's probably 70% of my business by the numbers. But I think we're having some feedback issues, and I'm hearing that as well. I'm getting a note here. So does someone need to mute?
I have everybody muted except for the presenters.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't see anybody who's unmuted except for you. So maybe if even the presenters, if you guys want to mute during.
I already did. I've had these technical difficulties.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm muted as well.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Sorry about that. I hate that I have to keep jumping out of it.
All right. Do we still have the feedback? I think we're good now. Are we good?
I hear clear on my sign.
Okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and proceed. And if we have any issues, we can deal with it. So basically, you know, as I mentioned, probate and wholesale, they intersect a lot. You're going to hear from the other presenters that there was a panel that just went by with Angie, Mohammed, and Brennan, kind of where just the ecosystem of how this all works is that, you know, realtors and people like Mo and Angie and Brennan and people like that are deal makers. They find the deals. And then they come to the title company to close the deal. And then when they discover a probate issue, I come in to resolve that. So what is probate? Probate is when a deceased person, basically where it becomes an issue is when a deceased person owns property. So you'll see here in this slide, what is probate? Probate is a court-supervised process for identifying and gathering the assets of deceased person. So most regular people, their biggest asset is a house. And so basically the probate process is identifying the assets, Yeah, it's still echoing, and it's throwing me off here. Let's see. I've got the message that there's still the echo. Let me try something here.
Are you on your phone and the computer, or just?
I'm just on my computer.
Okay. We're muting.
Sometimes it's good to log out and log back in really quickly.
Do you think it's on my end, Mo?
Now it's stopped,
Oh, wait, now
whatever
it's
they
good.
did.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's good.
It's crystal clear now. You're good.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. That was, yeah, this is much better. Okay. All right, great. Now we are all set. Okay, so why does probate matter? Well, we're in the middle of the largest transfer of wealth in history here in the United States. Baby boomers, you know, most regular people, the largest asset is their home. And the baby boomers who have accumulated a lot of wealth, they are holding on to homes. And, you know, as they're getting older, facts of life, people pass away. And so, you know, now that process of people that are owning properties are starting to pass and there are inheritances, that's where the opportunity lies. And, you know, you guys know from experience, I know the investors that are on the panel know this, there are many, you know, the children live in another state, the homeowner retired in Florida. There's any number of different situations that arise. And so what I wanted to just basically tell you guys about and educate you guys on is how to know it when you see it. What is a probate opportunity? What does it mean? Why does it matter? So I've just outlined basically the probate process is when it's the overseeing of the passing of assets when someone dies. So, like I said, this is an opportunity. Now, I think will you go ahead and go to the next slide, Bobby? So that's where real estate professionals come in, and there's a million different ways that this can be done. Obviously, wholesaling is a way that's you can do this, and you know, our other members of the panel will tell you about that. But the big thing to keep your kind of ears open for is, you know, so-and-so passed away, they owned a house, what do we do? That's what you want to keep your ears open for. Because then when you hear of someone passing away owning a house, you know, sometimes people will say, oh, well, you know, they told me that I own the house, or, oh, you know, they passed it to my cousin. They might say a lot of stuff, and they might think they understand who owns the interest and who has the standing to sell the property. But, you know, a lot of times they don't really understand what's going on, but that's okay, because you can kind of know some basic stuff and help move it along. So let's go to the next slide. So really kind of the two scenarios that will arise and the things that you want to keep your eyes open for when it comes to probate property, the property of a deceased person, is it's going to fall into two camps. And the legal way you say this is it's either testate, they had a will, or it's intestate, they did not have a will. This is basically going to determine who has the rights to sell the property, okay? This is who gets it, and therefore who can sell it. So if there's a will, it's going to tell you who gets it, you know? So you're going to want to, when you're dealing with the potential seller, you're going to want to figure out, is there a will? Where's the original? And get your hands on it, because you need the original. And if they don't, there's ways around it, but preferably you want the original. So the two scenarios is testate estate, where there is a will, and then there's an intestate. So if there's not a will, then the law just has to approximate who has the right to sell it. So, you know, the first person in line would be a surviving spouse. If I pass away and I'm married, and the property is in my name alone, 100% in my name, you know, tenant in common, John Crone, I own the property, then that the person in line that would pass to would be a surviving spouse. If I'm not married, then it goes to my kids. If I don't have any kids, it goes to my parents. If my parents predeceased me, then it goes to my siblings, and so on and so forth down this list. So you're going to want to be thinking, if there's not a will, someone passed away owning property, this is how it will go down, okay? This is the hierarchy of how property descends. So these are the things that you're going to want to start thinking about. If you know, grandma died, these are the people that would have the standing to sign, to sell this property with you. So they're the people that you're going to want to get under contract. Okay, so that's something to think about. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. Yeah, so these costs and timelines, I mean, it varies pretty wildly. This is just some loose information. You know, depending on, it can be as simple as there's one person that has 100% interest in the property. They have a will, it goes to their surviving spouse. It's all clean, it's nice. Those are great. If you get those, excellent. Everyone will be happy because it'll close really easily and it'll get done quickly. Doesn't always work like that. And a lot of the opportunities, you're going to have to maybe go through some muck and some mud. So maybe 4 people have a 25% interest in the property. 2 of them are dead. 1 of them is incapacitated. These are all the variations of different ways that you have to deal with this. And so you just have to pick it apart piece by piece. But these are some rough guidelines. I mean, $500 pays for the costs. The way that I handle the probate cases is I get paid at closing. So I don't really ask for a whole bunch of money up front, and that helps so to not kill deals, especially when, you know, the property is selling for less than 100 grand and smaller type of deals. So that's just a little bit of background on the cost and timeline. It takes about a month, roughly speaking, on average, maybe, you know, maybe a little bit more, maybe less, depending on the complexity. So that's a little bit of background on the cost and timeline. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide.
Hey, John, before you go to the next slide, I just wanted to interject if it's okay.
Sure.
I think that it's important to note and talk for a second about the fact that you are willing and able to get paid on the HUD at closing.
Yes.
Because very few attorneys are. And a lot of these, like you talked about, a lot of these opportunities are people that are in a really difficult situation and they've inherited a property. They might have inherited a mortgage. You know, they're paying bills and taxes for this property to try to get the equity out. And so they're dealing with all this on top of the loss of a loved one. So I know you went over it, but I wanted to stop and bring that back to everyone's attention because it is a really important point, because you have families that are in a distressed situation and they may not have, I mean, I work with some other probate attorneys as well that, you know, there's a $3,000 retainer up front. They don't have $3,000. They're going to have $3,000 when the property closes, when the transaction's closed. They don't have it today. So I think that's really helpful in a service that you can provide and that we can provide as an extension of working with you. That is great and a value add to our sellers in a way that we can serve them better, is providing this as an option. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Angie, because I want you guys to think functionally of how this works. Like I said, most of the people on this call are deal makers. So what you will see out in the wild, what this looks like in terms of an opportunity, is maybe you have a mailer, you have a list that you are mailing prospects, or, you know, you hear someone say, you know, oh, my neighbor passed away, and, you know, now the property's there. Or I know someone whose grandma passed away and they had a property, we're inheriting it, we don't need it. So like Angie said, these people sometimes are just inheriting an interest in property. Maybe they don't have money to front. Something that you can use to basically lubricate a deal and help make it happen is to tell them, look, I have a relationship with an attorney. They'll do the work with the attorney fee to be paid at closing. So basically you are just, you're providing them an opportunity to sell a property with pretty minimal upfront expense. You know, it's a lot easier for people to sign over paper money than it is for them to take out their checkbook and write something out on the front end. If you find the deal, you as a seller, that's something that you can basically outline for them, have everything laid out, and really their responsibility would simply be to kind of provide the information necessary for probate, provide some of these documents outlined here and some of the information outlined here. And I know sometimes investors that I work with, like Angie, will kind of, we're all working together for the same end goal of selling the property. So, you guys as deal makers find the deal. The title company, First International, will do the title search, determine that probate is necessary, determine that something else might be needed for closing, and then we all work together, including with the seller, to make this happen and get it to the closing table. So a lot of this stuff is pretty, you might have you don't have to be a lawyer to figure out this is some of the stuff you might need in order to close a property in a probate proceeding. Because you need the will, the original of the will, and the death certificate, show that there's not an outstanding funeral bill. If there's a vehicle that needs to be devised to a beneficiary, have the title. Creditors. So the probate process is just making sure that the right people that are entitled to the property get it, and also that the creditors have a seat at the table. So if there's a mortgage, that's gonna, that'll be dealt with. Not every property, obviously, you guys know, is going to be free and clear when you get in a probate situation. So just knowing what the assets are, getting the background on who gets what, knowing about the creditors. Tax returns can be helpful, but a lot of times when you're getting these properties in a wholesale environment, they're gonna, a lot of times it's older. It's not someone that recently passed away, but these are some things to just kind of have in the back of your head that they can expedite the process if you have these things. So we can go ahead and go on to the next slide. Yeah, so that's it for me on probate. I just want to say in closing before I pass the mic, it's all it is, very simply, all probate is someone owns real estate, or owns an asset. How it applies here is real estate, and who gets it next, and the court process of changing that title from the estate of the deceased person to whoever gets it next, whether it's the beneficiaries in a will or it's family members in an intestate process. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic now to the next panel member to discuss their portion. And then as we get to the question and answer, I'll stick around and be happy to answer any probate questions you have.
All right, so this is just something I put together looking at the differences between the FAR and the purchase agreement that I used. Everyone has different purchase agreements, but based on, so the way I had mine done, I paid an attorney to do my purchase agreement and my assignment, and it's based off the FAR. So I know there were some questions last panel, hey, is this legal? How do we do this? So I just wanted to go over some of the similarities and some of the differences. If you look at the top of the slide, you'll see the assignability in section 7. This is straight off the FAR. So this is no different than section 5 in my purchase agreement. So my agreement says buyer, which is me, will assign and be released from any further liability under this contract. On the FAR, you have a couple options. You can assign and be released from further liability, or you can assign but not be released from further liability, which we see most regularly if a contract is assignable and is written on a FAR. That's typically how we will see it, or you may not assign the contract. So this section correlates with section 5 in my agreement. And again, everyone's purchase agreement is different. I have seen purchase agreements from something, quite frankly, that looks very professional and is drawn up to protect both the buyer and the seller, to purchase agreements that literally look like they're written on a napkin. So I would say, I know we have a lot of realtors on this call. If you are a realtor and you don't have an alternate contract or don't want to use one, the FAR is perfectly fine and will work. in my opinion, if you're not going to use the FAR bar, then I think it's worth getting the purchase agreement written up by an attorney or purchasing a proper purchase agreement rather than typing it up yourself. That way you cover not only yourself, but also the seller as well. When you look at the property inspection, so people always ask, you know, what do you do if the property doesn't work, if you can't assign it or the property doesn't work for you? So if you look at section 9 at the bottom of the slide, that's in my agreement. It says we have a right to inspection, and I just took a screenshot of this, especially now with everything going on with COVID. We provide ourselves with a 30-day inspection so we can actually get access to the property, especially if it's owner occupied or if there are tenants, so we can get photos, we can get in there for whatever we want. This will vary. So it just depends. And I know everyone has a different inspection period. We're using about 30 days, give or take right now. And this correlates directly with the FAR bar in section 12. So it's no different than saying, okay, you have a property inspection and a right to cancel, and if left blank, right, you have 15 days, you can put 30 in there, whatever it is. It's no different. So we walk in and we're like, or someone walks in, right, to a retail transaction, they don't like the color on the paint, or they're like, I don't like this carpet, we're gonna have to redo the flooring. They can walk out, right, and back out during that inspection period. It's no different. So that's where it's similar. One of the differences is then if you look at section 7 in my agreement, the buyer pays all closing costs. So in most wholesale transactions, we as a buyer incur the closing costs. And if we assign it, then those closing costs are transferred over to the new buyer. So the end buyer will cover all closing costs. The taxes are still prorated unless we check mark that they will not be. The seller is still responsible for any liens or back taxes or anything like that, unless written otherwise in the contract. But we do cover the closing costs. And a lot of that too goes back and correlates to what we were talking about with John getting paid. If probate has to be initiated and completed, he gets paid at closing. Well, a lot of this comes because the seller does not have a lot of money, right? They're in a distressed situation, the property's distressed, so it's just a value add and a service that you can provide them. And it's also, I mean, the reality is we get these deals at a discount, so they're not market value. So we need to provide them with value and incentive and a reason why they would want to work with us versus listing it, right? So that's one of the differences. And I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. I was just going to go over at a broad 10,000 foot view for creative financing. I know this came up on the last panel as well. So just wanted to go over some of the options, and these are also value added things that we can add to our sellers when we're having those conversations, or you're having those conversations with your clients. It's not just a cash offer or list. There are some in-betweens and quite a few in-betweens and ways that we can work with them and provide a win-win solution. Owner and seller financing. Seller financing can be done with or without a down payment. So some of these sellers may want 5,000 down, 20,000 down, you know, 70,000 down. It just depends. So that can be done with or without a down payment. The terms vary based on the seller needs. So your interest rate is going to vary based on the seller's needs. A lot of these will do seller financing for tax advantages. So maybe they own the house free and clear. They don't want an extra 200 grand coming back to them right now. They would rather have 200 grand over the term of 20 years, right? So maybe that's better for them from a tax perspective. And that's obviously something we always say we are not accountants, CPAs, they need to get with their tax advisor on that. But it is a benefit to some of them. Also for older clients, if you have someone that owns a house free and clear and they're retiring or they're already retired and they're looking for that steady income and they're looking, you know, to make sure that they have however much, I don't know, $5,000 a month so they can cover their bills and everything, this can go in so they know they're getting an extra, whatever, maybe $500,000 a month. So it's a great thing for them as well in some instances. Lease options are also another option for creative financing. we would basically lease the property with an option to purchase it. So it's very similar to a rent-to-own program, and it's two different. So all the paperwork is different for all of these. So you have to make sure you have the appropriate paperwork. But the way we treat lease options, we treat them almost as two different transactions. So you have the lease in place where you have the tenant, and then there's also an option to purchase. So it is very similar to a rent to own. So let's say you have a house and it's $110,000, right? They may put down $10,000 and they have the option to purchase that house for whatever it may be. And again, the terms vary, 12 to 24 months, because they put that 10,000 down. So that price of 100,000 or 110,000 is locked in and cannot change. In the meantime, you have a lease renting, so they may be paying $1,000 a month. So that's something that's great, because they may not have, and especially as you know, we have what 26 million, I think, out of work right now. And then a lot of the lenders are changing their requirements. So a lot of people may not be able to qualify for traditional financing. So this is a great way to work with people. You acquire a property in any of these fashions, and you can exit the deal with a lease option. You can also do a sandwich lease option if you are acquiring the property as a lease option. So we may come in and say, okay, we're going to, let's say we lease it, I like round numbers. Let's say we lease it for $500 a month or $1,000 a month, right? I don't think you can find anything for $500 a month anymore. But let's say you lease it for $1,000 a month, and we put $5,000 down, and we've locked in the price at 100K. Well, we may turn around and find someone that wants to own this house, and maybe, you know, we give them 2 years to save up the money and to get their credit in check or wherever it needs to be, but they're putting $10,000 down, they're paying $1,300 a month, and they're going to buy it for $125. So we're making money on the front end with the option, we're making money every month with the lease, and then you're making money on the back end because you are selling it for more than you acquired it for. So that's just another strategy that you have available to you. And then the third one is subject tos, and that's taking over the seller's mortgage payments. You're not assuming the mortgage, we are taking over their payments. So the mortgage will stay in the seller's name. There are pros and cons to this. So you have to sit down and talk to them and really have a good conversation about what their goals are. Why do they want to sell this property? What are they going to do in the next 5 to 10 years? You know, are they looking to sell this property and then they're going to turn around and buy another house in 12 months? Well, if they are, do they need, you know, can they have this mortgage when you're looking at their debt to income ratio? That's really important to know, because if you do a subject to, then it could, you know, kind of mess them up on the back end if they're looking to buy another house in a year. But there are some great benefits. So if there's not a ton of equity in the house, or maybe a cash offer doesn't work for them, but they may say, listen, we just have to get out from under this payment. We'll take $5,000 moving costs, and you take over the mortgage payments, and we're happy. You know, it works for a lot of people, and it's a great value that you can provide them as well. Often these properties are placed in a land trust, so the beneficial interest switches from the seller over to you, even though you're making those mortgage payments. And it's really important, you are responsible for those mortgage payments. So you have to go into it knowing that you will be making those mortgage payments. Or if you're looking to assign it, you need to make sure that that person is going to take over their mortgage payments and pay those on time every month. That's really important. So those are just some other options. I know I came up last panel, so just wanted to go over it at a 10,000 foot view to give you guys some ideas and some other things we can do rather than cash or listing.
Sorry guys, I had to unmute myself. I was trying to make sure there wasn't any feedback on my side. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat box or unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. Brennan was able to join us, so I wanted him to see if he wanted to touch on anything while he's driving. Brennan, what are you doing?
Yeah, sorry about all that, guys. I was sorry for the delay. I missed
Yeah,
John. I missed John. I actually still have to send myself. But the only two cents I guess I have on getting a really bad echo. Sorry. When just to touch on the seller finance, my 2 cents there is just like Angie said, we're always looking for the main objective of that seller and what's best for them. So when I see seller financing making sense for the seller that I'm looking to do a deal with, it's typically, like she mentioned, tax benefits. And then I also see a lot of times older and senior landlords that love the passive income, but they're too old to manage it. A lot of these senior landlords are managing it themselves. So when you pitch to them that they can still get that residual income on a monthly basis, but we, the new buyer, will take over that management, they love that. So those are the two things that I see mainly in the seller finance realm.
Perfect. Mo, is there anything that you wanted to add? I see some people want John Crone's information. John, can you type in your information on the side? I'll share it on the screen in just a second too, but it keeps making me switch screens. But if you can type it in the chat box so they can have information, John.
So I think the main objective is really helping people figuring out what is important to them. So am I muted?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just figuring out what's really important to people. And, you know, everyone's in different circumstances. And like Brennan said, you know, a lot of these older folks, they just want the income. You know, they're on limited income. They're just getting Social Security checks. And they just want the extra, you know, $100, $200, $300 a month. So to them, it makes a lot of sense. And especially in the retiree communities, most of those deals that we're pitching, they don't want to sell the house. They want to move back in with their in-laws or their kids or their grandkids, and they just want to rent their home out, and they're perfect for rent-to-own options. And in terms of probate, probate's been my best deal source since I've started doing all this. So having a great probate attorney really helps out big time because they'll guide you through the process. They'll speed it up for you. And they also, having those resources to provide a customer when they're in need after they, you know, had a big life change and lost someone that was very dear to them, just calling them and saying, hey, you know, do you guys need help cutting the lawn? Do you need an attorney that's going to help guide you in the right place? Do you want a handyman to fix up some things for you? Do you need a mover to help move out the things from your property? Because most of the time it's never about the money. It's really about the situation and helping people get through whatever it is that they're doing. So just you being a resource to them and providing them value for their time in need is the most important thing you can possibly do in this business.
Perfect. We do have a question in the chat from Candy. She's asking, to purchase a property by simply taking over payments, do they need anything or to sign anything from the previous seller who is on the mortgage when the buyer wants to sell the property later? Anybody want to answer that?
So the question is basically just to make sure I'm on the right page. So you're asking if I'm taking over a mortgage or a property subject to, right? So I'm taking over the mortgage payments and then let's say 5 years down the road, I want to sell it. Do I need anything from the prior seller? Is that the question? Sounds like. Okay. Yes, I see a yes. Perfect. So no, that is where when we were talking about the land trust and putting a property in a land trust and assigning the beneficial interest, that is, so that takes care of that. So you don't have to go back and have the seller sign anything, the prior seller. So that's one of the purposes of the land trust.
Sorry, I had to unmute again. I wanted real quickly while we're here, I want to introduce Michelle Lowry. She is the branch manager here at our Hunters Creek office for First International Title, and she does a lot of our investor deals and for wholesalers, and they really love the way that she's hands-on with these files, that she understands the process, and there's a sense of urgency with these, and that seems to be the number one priority. I mean, everybody on the call could kind of say, the panelists could talk about what they look for, you know, in a title company and kind of how she does it. But I just want to introduce her real quick.
Hi.
There you go.
I'm here.
Hey, Michelle.
Talk a little bit about yourself.
I'm Michelle Lowry. I'm the manager and closer here in the Hunters Creek office. We specialize in investor and wholesale deals, but we also handle all retail refinances, everything. And we work with John, and we work with these wholesalers and investors, and we work with anybody we need to get the deal closed. That's what our goal is, and that's what we bring to the table.
Sorry, she's a little camera shy. Angie or any of you guys, do you want to briefly touch on kind of why you like using us for these wholesale deals and kind of what's important to look for in a title company during this?
Sure, I'll go. For me, and I think I really put you guys to the test often, but because these properties are distressed or the situations are distressed, they're really, you really want someone that knows, number one, obviously what they're doing, but also has the demeanor and the personality to work with your sellers and your buyers, right, on both ends, and to be able to balance that. And you guys do a great job. I mean, we have, and John's part of one of these deals. It's like the gift that keeps on giving, right? So John, I know you love them too when you get a phone call for me, because I end up with a messy deals, and it's a messy personal situation. It's a messy property. The title commitment comes back and it's like, okay, you need this to clear it up, right, before we can close. So you guys really are great to work with. The communication's great. We're on calls, you guys, me, John, the seller, whomever it is, to figure out exactly what needs to be done so that we can close. So, it's been a great experience.
Absolutely. And just a second, I took off the video. Sorry, it's raining right now, and didn't think it was very safe to try to have the video and everything going on. But anyway, the first two things that come to my mind with First International Title is they're educated amongst most, and they're resourceful. So like Angie said, I mean, they have the resources when you need them. I've used plenty of other title companies that don't have those resources, and they're super hands-on, and they're educated. A lot of times I'm asking Michelle questions, and her answers are the reason why that deal is getting done. And again, I worked with other title companies. If you don't have that resource at your title company that has the answers to these questions and understands what you're doing, a lot of these deals go bust. So that's the two things that I would say about how great you guys are.
Yeah, I have one thing I'd like to say.
Yeah.
So I want to get in line to provide my endorsement for First International Title. I've worked with a couple of different folks within that office there, but I have a relationship with Michelle Lowry. Like Brennan said, having someone that knows with the background knowledge just is so helpful. Not to mention, Michelle answers emails at like all hours of the day and night. Extremely thorough. Understand what's on the commitment. It's not just handing you a title commitment and telling you to go down that bulleted point list. She kind of already knows some of the stuff that's needed and does some of that front end work. It's very seamless working with First International Title versus some of the others that I've worked with. Just my personal experience. That's why they're my go-to for title related work. So huge endorsement to those guys. Really enjoy working with them, and that's why we've closed many deals together. It works.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot of different parties a lot of times to get the deal done. And I know John, First International Title, and I did a deal a couple months back, and if we weren't all in cahoots and weren't all working together, I don't think that deal would have been done, especially because there was a strict timeline to it. So there's a teamwork aspect to it as well, and we're all on the same team. And although John runs his own attorney office, and obviously I'm not a part of the title company, we all work together, and again, we're all in cahoots. So, I mean, we would have conference calls with each other. We're all on the same page. If I was working with although John is a third party, if I was working with a quote unquote, for lack of better words, a third party attorney that wasn't in the loop with First International Title and Michelle, again, that deal wouldn't have gone through, and many others wouldn't have gone through as well.
Yeah, I think First International really cares about what they do, and that shows in the jobs that they do. I know that I've called the office sometimes at 6:30 at night, and just call the office line, and someone sure enough picks up the phone, and I'm like, "Hey, Michelle, you're still working?" And she's like, "Yeah." Or Bobby Joe, I'll text her, really late at night because something pops in my head that's really important, and he always answers and gets it done. So just being there for you is really important. Most other title companies, you call them at 4:59, they're gone. But I always get lucky and get someone on the phone when I need them. And then also, like, I've done owner finance deals, I've done cash out refis, I've done quick claim deeds. So like almost everything that there is to do, they know how to do. I haven't been able to stump them yet. Usually they're educating me and answering questions for me on deals that I've never done before when I'm entering into new territory. So like John and Angie and Brennan say, it's really about that expertise. And I've been using them since day one, first day I started real estate. They've been incredible, super reliable, and very informative. So I really like them.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. We don't feel like a pat on the back, but we appreciate it. We just kind of wanted everybody to know, the value of working with a title company who understands this process, especially because it is so complex, and not every title company does it. A lot of them will say yes just to get you in the door, and then they kind of go through the steps and they don't understand what it's like. And I know Mo's told me before, he's getting calls from other title companies saying, hey, they were asking him how to do it. He's like, you know what? He's like, my girls already know how to do it. So he would restructure it so that we could get a deal, kind of thing. So it just kind of varies, how it's handled. So we're able to do that. So thank you guys. But we do have a question in the chat, and I think Michelle's going to be able to answer that about the land trust. Candy, are you saying so they need to have a land trust to create first?
You can actually set the land trust up concurrently. You can be working on a contract and still be working with, there are different companies that set up the land trust with you. We have one that we recommend. You can be working with them at the same time to get it set up, as long as it is established at closing, because the land trust is actually taking ownership of the property. So it has to be established, but it can all be done concurrently.
I hope that answered it. Yep, she said thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? I know some of the questions offline that we were asked was, how do you find these probate deals? So if anybody wants to kind of go into that a little bit more.
Sure, there's a lot of different companies that you can buy data from. But I'll give you guys a little pointer right now that's free, that I do all the time, and you're going to get a lot more data. However, half of these are going to be entities switching into other entities. But if you guys go on the property appraiser website and search $100 quick claims, half of those, again, are a business switching to another business. But the other half of those are, an aunt giving it to the nephew, right? Or a mom giving it to the son. It's a quick claim. Properties don't sell for $100. It's an inheritance play. So search $100 quick claims on any property appraiser website, and those are free leads for you.
I use paid website services. There's a company called All the Leads. And the company provides phone numbers and all the data that I need. So I just literally get it once a month. It's about $600 a month. And I upload in the dialer and start dialing.
Perfect. Brendan, I just see the inside of Brendan's car.
Yeah, I do gotta get going. If that's okay.
I do gotta get going. If that's okay, I'm trying to work my property. I'm gonna go.
That's
say
all
hi.
right. Go right
Go
ahead.
say hi.
He's always
Thanks
hustling.
for having me. I'm sorry for being late.
I'm
But,
sorry for being late.
thank you so much for having me.
Someone grab me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna put everybody's information up in the chat box, and we'll actually send it out too. Oh, Katie is asking, can you put the paid website name in the chat? So if somebody wants to type that in. And then we also wanted to know what are the biggest things that realtors should know when working with you guys, especially during this time? How can they, reach out to you, provide you leads? What's the best way to do that? And then what's the best things that they can, what kind of leads do you guys want from these realtors, since we do have a lot of realtors on the call? Mo or Angie, I think Brennan is off.
I would say properties that are either a distressed property or situation typically. So it's someone that needs to either sell quickly or has inherited the property, doesn't want it, doesn't have the money for repairs. There's typically some type of stressor, right? So there has to be some type of motivation, because we are not going to come in and make an offer at or above market value, right? So if that's what they're looking for, they really need to list it on the MLS. And that is typically what we will recommend to them. But if they need speed and convenience, and there's a motivation, and the property is providing, like, there's a pain point, right? If there's a pain point with either the situation or the property, that's where we come into play. So anything, if you're looking at it and you're like, we can't really list this property because it can't get traditional financing, there's no roof, it's disgusting, it's a hoarder home, think of us, because those are the types of properties, that we work with. Or inherited deals, we talked about inherited properties. So if they've inherited not only the property, but a mortgage and taxes and all of these things. We just closed on a property last month, and the family really wanted to get rid of it before the next mortgage payment. It was a huge burden for them. So we were able to come in and make a cash offer and close in 21 days, and they were thrilled. So that's, that's another example of a property. Really, anything where you're trying to provide another option, but there has to be some type of motivation and pain point. So if they have forever and there's no rush and they don't need the money today and they have money to fix it up, then surely they should be listing it. So it's two totally different worlds in my mind. And sometimes they're beautiful properties too. But they need to get rid of them. I'm sorry, Mel, go ahead.
Yeah, if you guys have any property, just feel free to reach out. But like Angie said, the motivation has to be there. So they have to want to sell really quickly. And the property, sometimes it makes more sense to list it. But also some people just don't care about listing it. They'd prefer to just go with a cash offer than listing it, knowing that they're going to get less money. So it's really about listening to that customer. But you have me and Angie as a resource. And if you have a cash buyer in your pocket, just call one of us and say, hey, we do have a cash buyer willing to make an offer. Call or text any of us, and just give us the address, give us a call, tell us a little bit about the property, the condition, the motivation of the seller, what they're looking for, and then we'll see if we can make it work. If it doesn't work, we'll tell you it doesn't work, and maybe we'll come up with some different options. Like Angie had all those subject to deals, so we can say, all right, well, maybe they're a little bit upside down, but maybe we can give them $20,000 or $50,000, pay you guys a percentage of that too, so you get paid, and then do a deal with them where they owner finance it to us. So there's always options. So just call us. We're a resource for you.
Yeah, and that's how we all learn to work together. So even if it's just, hey, I think this may be a lead, I'm gonna send you the contact info. We can reach out to them directly and work through it, and then get back to you and say, here's the situation, this is why this will work or won't work.
Yeah. And then I've had a couple realtors recently with everything that's going on with lending. They're not able to get, closed like the day before closing or the day of closing. And sometimes that seller is in a sticky situation. They have to sell fast. This is the opportunity, especially in that, to send it to Mo, it into Angie to get it in front of them, see if there's anything they can do. Like Mo said, they might want full market value, but if they're in a bad situation, they might want something quicker than, because they can't wait another week or whatever to find another buyer. But we're finding a lot of that going on with the lending right now. And we're actually having a lender panel on the 14th. So we're going to go into that a little bit more. But also, to let you guys know, these are opportunities for you to bring to them. And if you guys missed the first wholesale panel we did, there's opportunities for you to get paid as well as a realtor. So don't think that you're just passing it off to them, that, you're actually going to get something for this and you're helping your clients. So it's a win-win across the board for that.
And I would say too,
sorry. No, go ahead.
Especially during this time when we're dealing with this pandemic and people don't think that they can sell their property. They don't think, they don't want people traipsing through their house. They don't want open houses. We buy properties all day long virtually. So we don't see that we're getting one under contract in New York, so we don't have to see the property. We don't have to physically be there. And that's a great benefit to them, especially right now. So they don't have to do open houses. They don't have to fix up their house. We can make an offer based on our criteria. Often we have family members taking pictures now or videos and sending that to us. So if we're doing an inspection or a walkthrough, we need access for 1 hour, and that may be staggering people. Or if someone's living there, then they go sit in their car for an hour so people can get in and out. So it's very, given the situation and the current climate we're in with this pandemic, it's a very easy solution when you're looking at selling a property, which is a very large transaction.
Absolutely. Did anybody on the call or in the chat box have any other questions? I don't see anything popping up right now. And then another question that I got was for you guys, the panelists, including John, with regards to wholesaling, investing, are there any books that you recommend that some of these realtors start reading and kind of right now during the downtime that they can kind of look at and see if they want to research more and know more about this process? Anything you recommend?
I went to seminars. So I went to Rafael Vargas's Real Empire seminar to learn wholesaling on a team level to build a business. But I just learned from other wholesalers like Angie and Giselle Gonzalez taught me pretty much how to do it. So no books really for me. Just I went to seminars. I just paid a ton of money to go learn from other people. Nothing I do I've invented. I just go learn from people who are doing what I want to do at a super high level, and I'm having massive success at it. I know Rafael Vargas, Real Empire, is no longer around, but there's other programs that you can go learn from and other gurus that you can learn from.
There are a ton, and I learned the same way. I've always had a mentor through the whole process, both locally, kind of unofficially, and then going through some of these programs. So I've been through quite a few programs, and it's a great resource. I would say if you're going to look at some options, you can reach out and, talk to us about the pros and cons of some of them. But I would make sure anyone that you're learning from, either locally, informally, or maybe more on a national level, that you make sure that they actually have an active wholesaling business. Because a lot of these quote unquote gurus, they had a business, 10, 20 years ago. And quite frankly, I just don't think that does us any good. So I would just make sure that they do have an active business. I know I've been through Wholesaling Inc. They have, I think they call it REI Freedom now. Alex Youngblood, Wholesaling Houses Full Time. Keegley has a program as well. So all really great programs. I went through Rafael Vargas's Real Executives program. I'm on the tail end of that. So all of them have pros and cons. I'd be happy to go over those with you, but just, start listening to podcasts. There's a ton of free resources out there. If you're not sure if it's something you want to do or not, a lot of these other resources can be quite expensive and add up, but there's a ton of free resources out there for you to start getting the information you need.
I started my wholesaling career doing other deals. And all I would do is just get on every wholesaler's list that I can And being a realtor, I have buyers call me looking for deals, and every realtor on this call has buyers looking for deals. So I would just find the deals that match up with the buyers that I have in my database. I would just call someone like Angie or me, and I have a buyer for a deal, or you will like a joint venture agreement, or I would just mark up my commission on top of the deal, and then sell it to them. And to them, it's a great deal, So that's pretty much the first maybe 15, 20 deals I did, which is assigning other people's contracts. So it's called like, A to B, B to C. So Angie might have a contract with John, and then I take Angie's contract and assign their contract over to my buyer. And that's typically how it works. And sometimes I've seen 4 or 5 assignments on one deal. So it is common that we do assign multiple contracts to get that end buyer. And that's the easiest way to start wholesaling. And it doesn't cost you any money at all, no money in marketing, no going out there and paying for a list, no cold calling. It's just doing what we do on a daily basis as real estate agents and just matching people up with the properties.
Perfect. We got a couple questions about advertising, and that's actually something that we do here at First International Title. We're able to sit with you and kind of walk you through some options like Facebook advertising and social media. We can show you different ways to get leads for potential buyers and sellers. So you can always give me a call or give your local First International Title rep a call. If you don't know who that is, you can reach out to Sarah Luff at sarah.luff@firstentitle.com. I'll put it in the chat box. And she can connect you to your local rep. But also we were asked if you guys do Bandit Signs. Does anybody on here do Bandit Signs?
I do not.
Mo, do you?
No, I don't do Bandit Signs, but there was a point that I did do Bandit Signs temporarily. But most of the money we spend on marketing is just purchasing data, making tons of cold calls, and doing mass text and calling probate lists. Those are our 3 major sources right now. But for me, just being in real estate 5 years, I just have a massive database of buyers. But that comes with time. And the longer you're in it, the more people that So all you really need to be successful is like 5 investors who are real and will buy everything. And it's about making other people money. So if my investors, which I have several of them that are making $100,000 a year with me on deals that I'm sending them, they trust me. And I'll just find a deal. And me being the realtor, I already know what it's going to cost to buy. I'll go out there with the contractor, get them the estimates, and I'm bringing the deal to them with all the numbers and saying, hey, investor, here's what it's going to cost to buy. I already have some estimates for you. It's going to cost approximately $30,000 to fix it. And here you're going to make around $37,000 in profit after commissions and closing costs and everything like that. And if you have some investors in a database that trust you, then wholesaling is very easy. You just match people up, like I said. And all it takes is 5 good investors in your database, and you guys will be set for life. You can be selling every single deal that Angie or any other wholesaler provides to you.
All right. Katie in the chat box asked, what happens if you can't find a buyer in a timely manner?
Angie, you want to take that one?
Sure. You have a couple options. And Katie, I don't know if you were on when we went over it before, but the differences and similarities between the purchase agreement I use and the FAR bar, it's your inspection period. So you have that inspection period to do one of 2 things. Either you find a buyer and you assign it to an end buyer, or you can decide you want to close on the deal yourself and then find private money, hard money, however you want to go about it, or you can cancel the contract. So just like a retail transaction, that inspection period, you can cancel at any time for that, whatever it may be, 15, 30 days for any reason. So if you can't find a buyer and you need to walk away, you can, or you decide to close on it, or
renegotiate.
Yeah, or you renegotiate. And often if we're going to renegotiate, you ideally have some type of offer so you know what your buyer is looking for and you can renegotiate.
Yeah, most of our deals are renegotiating, and we explain to the customer why. We say, hey, when we contract on the property, it was sight unseen. We went there, and basically the feedback from our buyers is what we give to them. So I mean, most of the times I'm not even seeing any of the properties we're wholesaling, and we'll send 4 or 5 buyers out there. If they're all commonly saying the same thing, then we'll go back to them with the feedback on that and say, hey, you know, it looks like it has aluminum wiring. And when we contract on the property, we didn't know it had aluminum wiring. And that's going to cost $7,000 for us to replace. So unfortunately, we'll have to reduce the price $7,000. And then if they agree to that, then we'll move forward with the buyer, and we'll call the buyer back and said, hey, you said that you would buy it if it was $7,000 cheaper. Are you ready to contract on it? And usually we can solve the problem by just listening to the customers and getting their feedback, or the investors. So most deals are salvageable. I want to say the fallout rate is about 50% on most deals from what I've been seeing. So basically 1 and 2 deals will close, and there's always a 50% fallout because there's some things that we may not have understood. And that happened when we started scaling out of the market, when we started going to other parts of Florida that we didn't know. We found the fallout rate being higher. So we ended up scaling back to just Central Florida, which I'm an expert in, and I wouldn't contract on a property that I wouldn't buy myself. So our fallout rate is almost only 25% now.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. It's after 2, so I know a lot of people need to jump off, but I appreciate you guys, all the panelists. Thank you so much, John, Angie, Mo, Brennan, wherever you are. If you guys want to reach out to them individually on, you know, if you have a deal, you know, come up, we will be sending out the recording of this. We do have that information. We'll be able to send it out to you. And if you need any more details on how to get leads through First International for some of these investment deals, or how to market yourself, please, you know, reach out to your local First International Title rep. They should be able to help you. And if you don't know who your rep is, please reach out to Sarah Luff. I put her email in the chat box, okay? So thank you guys so much. And everybody's saying how brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. They loved it. How much they liked the panel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Feel free
Everyone have a
to,
great day.
Thanks for listening.
Enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.